Good morning, students. Today we are going to see the first unit, Prose, His First Flight, written by Liam O. Flaherty. In another video already we have seen the summary of this lesson, and we have seen about the author as well. So in this video we are going to see more detailed about this prose. So line by line I'll explain. The young seagull was alone on his ledge. His two brothers and his sister had already flown away the day before. He had been afraid to fly with them. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge and attempted to flap his wings, he became afraid. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. He felt certain that his wings would never support him. So he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. So where the little bird was standing, the little seagull was standing on the ledge. And he had two brothers and one sister. The previous day itself, they just ran to the edge, the brink of the ledge, and they had flown away. So they were very confident. But this small bird, he was so afraid. So he couldn't jump or dive from the ledge. So he was just moving here and there, and he was very much afraid of the sea beneath the cliff. Even when each of his brothers and his little sister, whose wings were far shorter than his own, ran to the brink, flapped their wings and flew away, he failed to muster up courage to take that plunge, which appeared to him so desperate. His father and mother had come around calling to him shrilly, scolding him, threatening to let him starve on his ledge unless he flew away. But for the life of him, he could not move. His brothers and sisters' wings were shorter than his own. But even then, what they did, they ran to the brink and they flapped their wings and they just flew away. But this little bird, he couldn't muster up courage. What's the meaning of muster up? Gather or bring together. He failed to muster up courage to take that plunge. So plunge is just jumping. So he was afraid to jump from the ledge. And his father and mother started scolding him, threatening him. And they said that he would starve unless he jumped from that ledge. That was 24 hours ago. Since then, nobody had come near him. The day before, all day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sister, perfecting them in the art of flight, teaching them how to skim the waves and how to dive for fish. He had, in fact, seen his older brother catch his first herring and devour it, standing on a rock, while his parents circled around raising a proud cackle. And all the morning, the whole family had walked about on the big plateau midway down the opposite cliff, laughing at his cowardice. So, before 24 hours, what happened? The parents were just giving practice for his brothers and sister, how to fly, how to dive, and how to skim the waves. What is the meaning of skim? Skim is to move quickly over, touching it slightly. So you must have seen the birds, touching the waves and flying. So they were just teaching, perfecting them how to fly and dive to catch the fish. And he was just watching everything from the ledge. So he saw his older brother catching a herring. Herring is a long silver fish. Okay, this fish will be swimming in groups and devour the fish. So his brother caught a herring and it was devouring it. So it was, when we are very hungry, we'll eat very quickly. So to eat in large amounts. And so their parents were so very proud of seeing this, and they started cackling, just the sound of the birds. And the opposite side there was a plateau, and opposite side of the cliff where the seagull stood. Opposite side of the cliff there was a plateau, and on that the family was there. What is the meaning of plateau? The flat area or a level ground. And they started laughing at the young seagull at his cowardice. So he was not brave to jump from the ledge. So everyone, they were laughing at him. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing warmly on his ledge that faced the south. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. Then he had found a dried piece of mackerel's tail at the far end of his ledge. Now there was not a single scrap of food left. He had searched every inch, rooting among the rough, dirt-caked straw nest where he and his brothers and sister had been hatched. He even gnawed at the dried pieces of eggshell. It was like eating a part of himself. So it was so hot. So and he was so hungry as well. Since the previous night he didn't eat anything. He couldn't find even a single scrap of food there. So he searched everywhere on the ledge. Only he found there was a dirt-caked straw nest where he and his brothers and sister had been hatched. So the straws and some eggshells alone were left there. And he even started gnawing at the dried pieces of eggshells. He then trotted back and forth from one end of the ledge to the other, his long grey legs stepping daintily, that is, small movements, trying to find some means of reaching his parents without having to fly. But on each side of him, the ledge entered in a sheer fall of precipice with the sea beneath. And between him and his parents, there was a deep white crack. So he just, he didn't want to fly. So he was searching another way to reach his parents. So he was searching here and there. And he just found the steep side, only, precipice is a very steep side of a cliff. So everywhere it was very steep. So he was finding some other way. Surely he could reach them without flying if he could only move northwards along the cliff face. But then, on what could he walk? There was no ledge, and he was not a fly, and above him he could see nothing. The precipice was sheer, very steep, and the top of it was perhaps farther away than the sea beneath him. And he could reach them without flying. So as I said, he didn't want to fly, but he wanted to reach his parents. So there was only one way. He could only move northwards along the cliff face. But then, there was a crack. There was nothing to walk there like a cliff or, like a ledge. So he could not walk there also. And he cannot fly also. Then how would he go there? And above him, so beneath him, he saw the sea. And above him, he could see nothing. The precipice was sheer. It was very steep. And the top of it was farther away than the sea beneath him. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge and standing on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other. and pretended to be falling asleep. Still, they took no notice of him. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing. Dozing means sleeping, with their heads sunk into their necks. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. And now he wanted to seek the attention of his family. So he was just pretending he was, as though he was sleeping. And still nobody noticed him. He saw his two brothers and his sister were dozing, they were sleeping, and his father, he was just preening, that is cleaning his feathers. Only his mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump. Hump means a round lump like, on the plateau. Her white breast thrust forward. That means suddenly she pushed her breast forward, a sudden forward movement. Now and again she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. So she just noticed the young seagull, and what she was doing, she was just tearing the piece of fish, and then she would scrape the beak. The sight of the food maddened him. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it, to sharp it. So he too would like to do the same as his mother did. He uttered a low cackle. His mother cackled too and looked at him. So here cackled. What's the meaning of cackled? Making the bird's voice sound. So he also cackled, gave some sound, and his mother also cackled back. Ga ga ga, he cried, begging her to bring him over some food. Ga lul ah, she screamed back mockingly. So just making fun of mockingly. But he kept calling plaintively, so sadly. And after a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. So suddenly he became so happy. His mother had picked up a piece of fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. So he saw his mother coming near him with a piece of fish. So he was so happy. He started tapping the rock with his feet. And but when she was just opposite to him, abreast near of the ledge, she halted, stopped, her legs hanging limp, her wings motionless. There was no movement on her wings. The piece of fish in her beak, almost within the reach of the young seagull's beak. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into space. His mother had moved quickly upwards. As he passed beneath her, he heard the swish of her wings. Swish while flying, some noise will be heard. So swish of her wings. Then a monstrous terror seized him and his heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a moment. The next moment he felt his wings spread outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach and against his wings. So automatically he stretched his wings and started flying. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring gradually. What is soaring? Flying. He started soaring. He started flying gradually, downwards and outwards. He was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Then he flapped his wings once and he soared upwards. So gradually he started flying. He uttered a joyous scream and flapped them again. He soared higher. He flied higher. He raised his breast and banged against the wind. Ga, ga, ga. So he started cackling. Golola. His mother swooped past him, her wings making a loud noise. He answered her with another scream. Then his father flew over him screaming. Then he saw his two brothers and sisters flying around him, soaring and diving. So as he started flying, the whole family became so happy. So everyone started flying with this little bird. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly and began to dive and soar, shrieking shrilly. So they all started making noise, the bird's noise, He was near the sea now, flying straight over it. And he was just flying over the sea, facing out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him with little ridges, moving over it. He turned his beak sideways and crowed amusedly, making noise. He was so happy. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green floor in front of him. They were beckoning, encouraging him, calling shrilly. So they landed and they encouraged him to land. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. So everyone landed properly, and this young seagull, he couldn't land on the sea. He just sank into it. And he was so afraid. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise, exhausted by the strange exercise. So this was a very strange exercise for him. So he was totally exhausted. And his feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no further. So now he started floating on it. He was floating on it, and around him, his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. So that's all. So we have finished this lesson. That's all, students. We can meet in the next video. Thank you.